Hi, everyone. My name is Max Miller, and I want to welcome you to The Fair Fight with Alvaro and Max. Alvaro, why don't you, while we're waiting for the live feeds to connect here, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about our show and what we're doing?
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure. First of all, hello, man. How's it going? I hope
Hey,
the kids are getting out the door okay. I recognize it's 7:45 in Des Moines, not 8:45
do you,
here.
do you see the bags under the eyes?
I don't, but it's because you're beautiful. So
Oh, thank you, sir.
you're
That's
welcome.
a
You're
sweet.
welcome. Yeah. All right, everyone. So, for everyone tuning in, I suspect we'll have some new folks. Max and I are spinning up a new show that fills what we think is a bit of a gap. I think there's a lot of programming out there that looks at stuff as left versus right. We look at it in terms of the money at the top versus everyone underneath. And so today we are going to be talking about this, what was a bidding war between Netflix and Paramount to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. I think to give you a clear example of how I think what we're doing is a little bit different. I think there was a lot of leftists that or liberals that wanted Netflix to win, and a lot of conservatives that wanted Paramount to win. And Max and I think that both of these deals were and are
I want
completely
Warner Brothers to
rotten.
compete.
That's
Just
right.
compete in the
That's
market.
right. And so what we're doing right now, folks, is we are starting kind of in beta. What's it called when restaurants open? A soft launch,
It's
a
a soft
soft
launch.
open.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very experimental, very nascent. And so we're doing these lives at drive time on Fridays, 8:45 a.m. Eastern, 7:45 Des Moines time Central.
And
Meanwhile,
we've been doing them kind of bi-weekly at this point in
yeah, and
time.
we really
I
should
think
kick it into weekly,
we're
I
gonna
think.
try for our live version of this
Yes.
show. Do it every
Yes.
Friday morning on your drive.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we're doing that. While we are doing that, folks, Max and I are trying to create what we're calling kind of like a car talk for the messed up economy. And what that means is, for those of you who are, I think we probably caught some elder. Some elder millennials. So if you're
Is
an
that what
elder
they call us,
millennial,
right?
you
Yeah.
probably still grew up with Car Talk, Click and Clack, the
Sure.
Tappert brothers, who broadcast out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. It was a show where you'd call in with your problems with your car, and you get roasted a little bit by Click and Clack, but you'd actually get you get some good advice. So we are trying to do that right now for the modern 21st century economy. We have recorded some pilots with one of the leading social media experts out there, pediatrician Dr. Jenny Radesky.
That's gonna
We've
be a great episode.
It's going to be a good one, and I think it's a really
Mm.
practical one for parents.
Yes.
We recorded one with Jennifer Abruzzo, our nation's leading labor lawyer, on all this insane surveillance that's happening at work. And you are hearing here first that our next episode that we are cutting
You
is with
forgot one
the.
though.
I did
Alvaro,
forget one because I'm
yeah, we
excited.
have an
So,
agricultural
okay,
episode
go
for
ahead.
those of you
Talk
that
about
care
that.
about
Talk
ag
about that.
markets. We have Basil Mushbarish, who will be talking to us about all the different consolidation in agricultural markets. So that'll be one of our pilot episodes that will launch eventually.
And so the the other pilot that we are about to cut, we are thrilled to be hosting the one, the only Cory Doctorow, and so pretty soon you're going to see a request for questions for the one and only Cory Doctorow. What are your
What
questions?
word did he invent,
He
Alvaro?
invented the word enshittification, which I am totally vanilla. I still feel a little bad saying, but
Platform and
describes
shitification.
describes how everything on the internet starts out all roses and ends up after being washed in venture capital money, and after capturing lots of people and capturing the business vendors, ends up as a big pile of ish, as I think the kids would say.
Billionaires ruin everything. Everything.
uh, um, and so that is what's coming, folks. So stay tuned, please, for a request for questions to the one and only Cory Doctorow. We're going to be talking about what he calls reverse centaurs. So for those of you with little children in your lives, or for those of you who are huge nerds like I am, a centaur is a person, a torso and head of a person with the body of a horse. And so, if you are driving a car, you are a centaur in the terms of automation speak, because you're a human brain driving this massive beast of a vehicle. But Corey is worried that all of us are becoming reverse centaurs. And he talks about the Amazon delivery drivers who are told where to go, when to go, how to get there. They're like denied pee breaks. They are in 140-degree heat. And yet, this massive mega corporation, this billionaire company, is just basically the machines are telling the people where to go. And so he says it's a machine brain, human body, reverse centaur. I think it's amazing.
Alvaro,
So
do you
yeah,
remember I'm dating myself, maybe I'm older and more aware than you of American culture. Do you remember Yakov Smirnoff? The
I do
He
not
was
remember
he
Yakov
was this
Smirnoff.
comedian in the '80s, he did all this, but he was like, "In Soviet Russia, car drives you," you know? It's like, I can't
Yeah,
help but think the reverse centaur is, exactly that. It's like AI in corporatist America, AI is driving us.
that's right. So why don't we shift to talking about this
Yeah,
huge stinking
and
mess.
what a development in the last 12 hours here.
Yes. So why don't you talk about what that development is, and then I'll
Oh,
kind of
well,
give an overview of what
so
happened.
you might have seen and look, I recognize kind of the irony of guys that are corporate skeptics and, talking about the powers of big tech and all of that. I used a little AI, for this little teaser of
Oh yeah,
Netflix.
you can't do that again, man.
I know.
You
I
can't
got
do it
some
again.
criticism. I get people are like, you're a hypocrite. And I'm like, yeah, I'm also on YouTube and I sued Google for
That's a very good point. That's a
monopolization.
very good point.
It's a
You do get some
the
grace, but the
when
grace
this
is gone now.
when everything is being bottlenecked, it's
Yeah,
like, you kinda gotta take advantage of the tools you can.
yeah,
But anyway, so of Netflix fighting with Paramount over the WB logo, and, until what was it, about 5 PM last night, 4 PM last night,
yeah,
that was still a relevant topic of
yeah,
the 2 of them fighting over WB.
yeah,
But last night, Netflix withdrew, said they're not gonna match the Paramount offer, and so now we are looking at a landscape where the deal that will be considered by
yeah.
antitrust enforcers is Paramount acquiring, WBD, which is
Warner
Warner
Brothers
Brothers
Discovery.
Discovery.
Yeah. And for those, watching at home who haven't been tracking this super closely, the thing to understand is that whereas Netflix just wanted to buy, Netflix did not want to buy CNN and some of what they call linear cable channels. Paramount very much wants to buy CNN, and that is very much included in this deal. And as we're about to talk about, the leadership of Paramount in the form of David Ellison, the heir apparent to Larry Ellison, founder of
What a
Oracle,
sniveling little schoolboy with
and
daddy's money.
I think he was a star in Flyboys, man. I don't know about you.
What's
he was my.
I'm missing your cultural reference here, sir. What
Are
is
you?
it?
Did you forget about the James Franco and David Ellison vehicle Flyboys? You should take a moment to Google it.
Uh,
It's just as awesome as it sounds.
I missed that
It's about some
cultural
heroic,
icon.
I forget whether it's World War One or World War II pilots, but it's
Oh,
very
okay.
exciting. I do think Larry Ellison invested a load of money into promoting his son David Ellison's acting career. Now David
So,
Ellison just
I
runs
did not
billion-dollar companies.
realize so wait, so David Ellison was an actor?
I
I didn't
mean,
realize that. I
to
mean,
the degree that there's like five
actor.
minutes of me in a documentary, then I guess I'm an actor too.
I was in
Um,
Fahrenheit 9/11.
There you go. So
As
both of us, but me, you, and David Ellison are both actors. I'm pretty sure we don't have our union cards from the Screen Actors Guild.
I don't have an IMDb page yet,
Not yet,
so
not yet. One can only hope. So let's zoom out. Let me provide a little bit of overview
yeah.
of what we're talking about, how this played out, and then start talking about some of the problems with this takeover. Because I think there's a lot of conservatives out there who are saying, "Oh, look, like I don't mind the Ellisons. I don't mind what they do. But I think there's stuff for everyone to be concerned about. Whether you're concerned about um, having movie theaters that are actually able to uh, um, put out good programming, good films, or whether you're worried about Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman running the largest news channel on cable, which is CNN. So,
Can you explain that,
yeah,
Alvaro? Because
yeah, yeah. Well,
this is important. I think this is the biggest issue
yeah.
with this
Well,
merger.
let me just tease it,
Ok
which is that this started out as a bidding war in the 70 and $80 billion range between Netflix and Paramount. Paramount has now come in at $110 billion. And one of the ways that it's been able to access that amount of money is by taking a trip to the Middle East and getting the public investment fund, the sovereign wealth fund, I believe, of Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Abu Dhabi to kick in roughly $24 billion. And so, we don't want the folks who are listening to this who are conservative, who are on the right side of the spectrum, to think, oh, look, my team is going to be in charge. Not so simple. So, anyways, let's zoom out. This whole thing started in October when Warner Brothers Discovery started receiving offers for its various properties. Pretty quick in that process, Netflix seemed to come out on front with a deal that mixed, I think, stock and cash. But then David Ellison, fresh off of completing a merger between Paramount and Skydance and being named head of that new company, said, no, 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 I want in on this. Okay, so you've got Netflix, and pretty much everyone I'm sure is familiar with Netflix and Netflix properties. Then you've got Paramount Skydance, which is this combination of Paramount Studios, also Paramount the streamer, also owns channels like CBS, which includes programming like 60 Minutes, right? Suddenly they say, no, we want in on this. And right before all this happened, everyone will remember that Donald Trump sued 60 Minutes for allegedly like remixing the Kamala Harris interview. Pretty much everyone acknowledged this was a spurious lawsuit. And July of last year, it is settled to the tune of $16 million, right? Shortly thereafter, Bari Weiss, head of Free Press, is named the editor-in-chief of CBS or Paramount. It's effectively the same thing, so I'm not going to bother with that differentiation. And so suddenly, Paramount starts coming in, and people paid attention to the money fight. And yes, Netflix and Paramount were kind of, like those cars in F1, passing each other a little bit with the money. So first Paramount came in with the cash offer, and then Warner Brothers hilariously was like, yeah, you're offering more cash than Netflix, but like, David, where are you going to get this money, buddy? And so David then
Well,
had to
that's
get,
can I just point out something? Because I
go
think
ahead,
this is a really important so this deal ends up being for 111
10,
billion
yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay?
yeah, 111 billion.
Paramount's market capitalization,
Yes.
which is you add up all of the
Everything.
stock, what
Yes.
the company is worth,
Yes.
is only at its height in the last few months, like 14 billion,
That's
right?
amazing.
It's dropped because I think the investors are kind of pulling out because it's like you're
Yeah.
gonna take on all this stuff. So it's like you have a company
That's
that is
amazing.
coming in saying, "We're gonna buy another company for 10 times our own value,"
Yes. Yes.
right?
It's like an
And
ant
so
trying to eat a cat.
that
And
yeah,
and how does
that's
the ant do it? With debt, with loads and billions of dollars of debt. And so
and Middle Eastern oil
and Middle
money.
Eastern money, right? So two things happen,
Yeah.
to get this pile of cash. The first thing is that these Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds come in and they're like, all right, we'll hook you up with $24 billion. For a hot minute, Jared Kushner's part of the deal. Then he steps out. For a hot minute, Tencent, owner of
Yeah,
ByteDance,
but
the
that would have raised a
that
whole
would have
bunch of what is it,
tripped up
CFIUS?
CFIUS
That
issues,
yep.
which is the Foreign Investment Authority of the United States. But anyways, one of my favorite forgotten facts about the money fight is that David Ellison has to go to his father, Larry Ellison, to
Wow.
back the deal with the Ellison Family Trust. And so anyways, they're like going back and forth on
I
the
mean,
money, and like
how
Netflix
much of
is,
this is really like David's desire, right? And how
yes,
much is I've seen Game of Thrones,
right,
do we
right,
think that Jamie Lannister, was
right.
making all of his decisions on his
That's
own?
right. That's right. So anyways, but I think what people need to understand here is that it wasn't just a money fight, right? as early as November 2025, like Netflix is bidding with money. Who knows what they're bidding with behind the scenes? But Paramount is bidding with money, but it's also bidding with censorship. Because
Yeah.
as of November 2025, Hugo Lowell of The Guardian reports that Larry Ellison father has called the White House and is actually discussing. I don't know if you can throw up A1 from the Google Drive up here.
Can.
Larry Ellison, dad to David Ellison, is calling up the White House and discussing the specific anchors on CNN who could be pulled down if the Ellison family is allowed to take over CNN. And so there's actually and so that is the start of this effective censorship bidding war that Paramount is engaged in. So soon after that, um, in December, Trump says, I think in a Kennedy Center gala that he attends, he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to be involved in, I'll be involved." I can't do the Trump impression this morning. I'll
It's
be
not
involved
very
in
good.
any deal as to who will buy Warner Brothers, and he kind of starts signaling like Netflix,
Wait,
lot of market share, lot of market share. He kind of starts signaling he wants Paramount. Then on December 8th, which is a Monday, Trump starts blasting Paramount for airing a 60 Minutes interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene,
where
who
she was
we have mixed feelings about in the show because she has said some insane stuff about
broken
Jewish
clocks are
people
right
and
twice a
lasers.
day. Yeah.
Uh, um, but look, her critique of the economy is can be quite compelling.
Well,
It's
and
it's
also, like, it seems what I've seen from Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, is this at least some Federalist principles, like, that
yes,
she's
yes,
criticizing
right.
overstep by this administration, which
She's
I'm
an
confu
independent thinker. And look, like what she has
and
said
it's
is she said some,
so
as you said, abhorrent stuff in the past. I think she's walked, like apologized for some of it.
yeah,
Um,
but
uh,
but
but
she spouts off her mouth, but at least,
yes,
people here's the deal, it's like, I prefer people that you actually know where they stand, that they're not afraid to say
right,
what they actually
yep,
think,
right,
than people that are always crafting a message for people to
yeah,
I want you to know just what I want you to know.
yes, yes.
And so
That
it's
is a
like, I
true
mean,
thing.
that's, because there's an old saying, like, "A known devil is better than an unknown devil."
Yes. So anyway, Donald Trump calls her a quote low IQ traitor. Has been out there. And so he gets angry that 60 Minutes has run the show, so he starts blasting Paramount for it. That afternoon, the Wall Street Journal is reports that David Ellison's son now has called the White
Lar
House.
Larry Ellison's son? David Ellison?
David
Or
Ellison, comma son.
oh, okay.
Yeah, David Ellison, comma son, has called the White House and said, "Hey, look, like we will completely restructure CNN programming if its bid wins out." So then Donald Trump 2 days later is like, "Look, any deal needs to involve CNN because everyone there is corrupt." Right? So this is at a business roundtable. So again, so like basically he's chiding Paramount for this programming on 60 Minutes, right? So he's telling Paramount kind of what he wants, right? And he's telling the world what he wants. I want CNN to be part of this deal. I'll be involved in any deal where needs to be restructured because these people are corrupt, right? And so then what happens?
Donald Trump is calling people corrupt.
It takes one to know one, bud.
That's
Although I don't think it quite lands with CNN. CNN has lots of problems. I'm not exactly sure if
yeah,
it's corrupt,
mm.
like Donald Trump is corrupt, at least.
I mean, it's a
So,
corporation.
well, all right. I think a lot of small businesses that we're friends with would object to that
When I say
characterization.
corporation, I mean big corporations. I mean, I do not talk about small businesses
Yeah,
in as a corporation, even though, yes, it's hell, I'm incorporated. I'm
yeah,
incorporated, but, and that's what it was intended to be for, by the way.
yep,
It was intended for that, capital to be protected in a business venture. It
yeah,
wasn't intended to grow to like the size of small governments.
Right.
Like, mhm.
So, pardon me. So then, right before Christmas, you will remember that there was a CBS 60 Minutes investigation into CCOT, this bizarre Salvadorian torture prison that we'd illegally sent like 100 people to over a judge's orders. It's literally about to go to air, and Bari Weiss, the censor in chief at CBS, pulls it down last minute. And she issues this explanation like, "Oh, we didn't get enough comment from the administration. Like I was just asking questions." So already you see how Paramount Larry Ellison has called the White House and said, like, you want Aaron Burnett off? Done. You want Breonna Keeler off? Done. David Ellison then follows up a few weeks later, says, we will totally restructure CNN. Then Bari Weiss reads the writing on the wall, pulls down a critical CBS 60 Minutes investigation. And now the latest part in Paramount's censorship bid is what happened with James Tallarico. James Tallarico and Jasmine Crocker are locked in a neck and neck fight for the Texas Senate Democratic nomination. Tell me, go ahead.
Didn't we miss Colbert being pulled? Did you
Oh,
already
I
cover that?
completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
So
no,
so so
I think that's
right
huge. Like,
before, like at the very start of this, Stephen Colbert, right around the time that the Paramount Skydance merger, this is one merger ago, is going through, Colbert's show is canceled. And $16 million are promised to the president for his spurious lawsuit around the Kamala Harris 60 Minutes interview, right? So started with Colbert getting canceled, $16 million being paid to the president, continued with Larry Ellison calling the White House promising to pull
yeah.
down Aaron Burnett, Breonna Keeler, continued with David Ellison calling the White House saying we will restructure CNN, continued with Bari Weiss pulling down the CCOT investigation last minute from 60 Minutes, and now, most recently, has finished with CBS lawyers telling Stephen Colbert he can't have Democratic Senate Texas candidate James Tallarico on his show because of a rule that for literal decades has never applied to this kind of interview from the SEC.
But it's
This is
also
the
we
censorship
used to
bidding battle.
have can we just talk for a minute about
Yeah,
that? Because I do think that Tallarico thing is important with talking.
yeah,
Because, like, if I when I look back on American history, when I look at kind of how things have become so bad in American
yeah,
history, I often end up at the Reagan administration,
yeah,
as being kind of a real starting point for putting America on the wrong track. And one of the things that the Reagan administration did, so just so everybody knows, the airwaves belong to the government, okay?
yeah,
It does not belong to these individual broadcast companies. They don't own it, they lease it from the government. And so, because of that, the government can have some rules about, so think about obscenity rules on the airwaves, right? That you
yeah,
can't, utter certain words and all that. That's why we like the internet and not the airwaves, because we can curse and say what we want to. So there are rules that the FCC can put on it. And one of them was the fair time rule,
yeah,
which was that
right,
essentially if you were going to, like, have a partisan, like, take on an issue, right? Like, you need to give equal time, the equal
yeah,
time rule. You need to give equal time to somebody else on the other side to offer a different perspective on it.
yeah.
And, but here's the deal, Reagan didn't like that.
Hmm.
Reagan and Republicans did
Yeah,
not like that, like, basically, anytime that they wanted to say something,
right,
spin a story a certain way, that the other spin had to be given so that the
yeah,
people could have a choice, right? So, they got rid of that rule in the FCC. That's what allowed it's not until after that
yeah,
rule gets put away that you start having Rush Limbaugh
right,
be on the air. And
right,
then all of a sudden, you've got these right-wing people, Fox News. All of
yeah,
that is because of the fact you get rid of that equal time rule.
yeah,
Um, so then what? Now that they're in power and controlling the FCC, they're gonna say, "Oh, it's back now," because that's exactly what this FCC did, is that they essentially because one of the interpretations of it was that it didn't apply to late night talk shows,
yeah.
right, for
There was
all
a
these
Jay Leno
decades.
decision in the '90s that
And
made that clear.
and I
Yeah.
don't even think they actually have changed that yet. I think
Brendan Carr, the head of
just
FCC, like issued some guidance saying that basically if he decided it was too partisan, then that exception wouldn't apply.
yeah.
Something along those lines. Yeah. Um,
So anyway,
yeah.
but that's
No,
it's the Tallarico situation was just kind of ridiculous from a
that's right.
historical view.
That's right.
Mhm.
And so you've got this. So basically, and then what happened yesterday? Yesterday, what happened is Ted Sarandos, I think co-head of Netflix, basically, it went to the White House for a meeting in the context of Paramount just having been given a new opportunity to bid on Warner Brothers, I think like about a week earlier. Sarandos goes in to meet with the White House, walks out of it, and then a few hours later, Netflix says, look, we're not going to try to match Paramount's new big bid. Netflix basically pulls out. Who the heck knows what that conversation was between him and the president? I'm sure it will leak in some capacity sometime
I can
soon.
guess. I can guess. It's basically it's like, if you succeed on this, we're going to, like, sue you for antitrust,
Yeah,
right? It's using antitrust
yeah,
as a weapon
yeah,
instead of as a principle that must be followed.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, like, this is where we're headed, right? We are headed to a world where one family, the Ellison family, who is extremely close to this president, they already control CBS. They already control properties like 60 Minutes. They already control the CBS Evening News, which, like, of the big three, I believe for a long time was the leading newscast. Um, and already is the platform on which you have Stephen Colbert for at least a few months until May, right?
Yeah.
They will now control CNN, right? The home of not just, the Jake Tappers and Aaron Burnett's of the world, who sometimes are critical of this administration, but also of Roy Wood Jr., who hosts what is my favorite show, Have I Got News for You, who is a
Hmm.
hilarious critic of this administration. Look, all opportunity critic pretty much makes fun of everybody, but like in my view has one of the sharpest shows. The Ellison family will also own HBO. HBO, home of John Oliver, another one of the sharpest critics of this administration, with Last Week Tonight. On top of all of this,
I think he proved, though, with the Tallarico interview.
yeah.
I think Colbert could probably just go independent and
Well, we're going to
maintain.
talk about this because I
Yeah,
think
because
I don't want people to look at this and say,
it's
"Oh,
all over.
all is defeated." Like, no, there's actually a lot of different ways we.
I got some spicy ideas, by
Oh,
the way,
good, good, good,
Alvaro, so
good.
you just gonna.
No, 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 and so the Allison family through Oracle also has this key stake in TikTok, right? So you got CBS, CNN, HBO, and TikTok all in the hands of this one family. Okay. And already on TikTok, there's been some back and forth. A lot of people have said ever since this new ownership, American ownership came in and in the run up to it, certain kinds of messages, for example, about ICE were censored. Certain messages about the Epstein files were censored. There's been some critique and pushback on that where some experts came in and said, actually, this is probably a data center thing. But like, if you just look at what the Ellison family did with CBS, it is not at all crazy to look at their takeover of TikTok or this key stake in TikTok and say, surely censorship is coming down the road there. Now, at
Yeah.
this stage, if you're a conservative, you might say, like, look, guys, I feel like the liberals have kind of owned, news for a long time. I don't really see the issue here. And
Despite the
so
fact of Sinclair owning all of the local news stations,
all right.
despite the
Well, I'm just
fact
I'm just saying, look,
I
a
mean,
lot of conservatives do think
I
this,
know they
right?
think that. I
Yeah.
know they think that, but, even when it was a quote unquote liberal news station like
Yeah.
CNN
Yeah.
or MSNBC,
Yeah.
often it was really a corporate message
Yeah.
that was being given, you
Yeah.
know? Skepticism about taxing the rich,
Yeah.
skepticism about antitrust and,
Yeah.
blocking mergers. So,
Yeah.
it's like, whatever we decide is, like, liberal, we
Yeah.
should always remember too, it's like we need all views.
Yeah.
We need all views to be expressed in the media landscape.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And look, like, I am sympathetic to people who, on the right who, maybe don't watch local news. Maybe they just watch the big
Yeah.
cable channels, and outside of Fox News, they didn't feel like they had a home. And I don't agree with that, but I understand that. But here's the thing, folks on the right who are looking at this deal and like, oh, whew, like Netflix didn't get it. My friends, CNN and HBO are not just about to be owned by the Ellison family. They're about to be owned by the literal kingdom of Saudi Arabia, of Qatar and Abu Dhabi. And I don't know, Max, if you were able to pull that page 44 of the SEC filing. Are you able to,
That
to pull that up?
I have it. Do you
Okay.
want me to show it?
Maybe you could show it. I think it
I
it
think I
kind of sounds
can here.
crazy when you say it out loud.
It
So
really
if you could
does.
pull it up, I think it's helpful. And like,
Let me just make sure that I
so here, while you do that, I'll talk about this a little bit. So there was a really funny two-step here where at the end of last year, the Ellison family like goes to these Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds and says like, "Hey guys, can you kick in a little bit of money here?" And so they're like, "Yes, of course, we shall kick in $24 billion." And so immediately, they also go to Tencent, the Chinese company that owns ByteDance, that owns TikTok or used to own TikTok, everywhere now owns it, everywhere except with a minority stake in the US. Also went to the Kushners. And so there's this really funny moment where everyone was like, yo, what exactly are you doing? And can you zoom that up? What exactly are you doing?
let me try.
You'll get it,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
worry. And
It's
so the Ellison family, Paramount, was like, oh, guys, don't worry. Don't worry. Like, we are doing this thing where, where our financing partners, and I will read them out loud lest you doubt me, quote, the Public Investment Fund, parens, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, close parens, Limad Holding Company, PJSC, open parens, Abu Dhabi, close parens, Qatar Investment Authority, parens, Qatar, and Affinity Partners, parens, Jared Kushner, bolded, italicized, have agreed to forgo any governance rights, including board representation associated with their non-voting equity investments. Accordingly, the transaction will not fall within CFIUS jurisdiction. So I don't know about you, Max. I feel a lot better about this.
I
That the
well, it's
Saudis that the Saudis won't have. I feel really good. I think this deal should go through. So I
so
hopefully that puts you at ease.
can we explain to people, because this is where, like, I'm sorry, but corporate law is fucked up. And I mean, I'm not gonna mince words here on it. The idea the idea that a leveraged transaction like this,
Yeah.
which it is, because
Can
remember,
you
the
explain what a
company
leverage transaction
yeah,
is for
so
folks?
the company is only worth Paramount is
Yeah.
only worth in total on its best day
Yeah.
12 to $14 billion.
Yeah.
And they are engaging in a transaction. Like, we're talking like 2008 real estate level, like, leveraging, where it's
Yes.
like you've got a
Yes.
little pot of money and you're buying a
Right.
mansion,
Again,
right?
like a $14 billion company making a $110 billion bid.
Uh,
Yes.
and so the idea that the financial backers of that transaction
Yeah.
don't have some control,
Yeah.
like, you're nuts. But you know what? On paper, it says they don't have control. And so
Yes.
that's, like, where there's so much that is a fiction about corporate law, like, it's just fictional, right? They're just like, "We're just gonna act like, well, if they don't have a seat on the board, they have no voice, and we're just gonna pretend like that's the case." But, it's not just gonna be the foreign sovereign wealth funds here, right? And
Right.
we're talking about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which,
Right.
to remind people, was responsible for dismembering a journalist, an
A
American
Washington Post
journalist
journalist. Yeah. Jamal
on
Khashoggi.
American soil. Am I right? I
On
thought
Turkish soil.
Turkish soil. Sorry, it was
Yeah.
Turkey that he was in, not
But
yeah, but
on
it's
Saudi Arabian soil because it was it was an embassy or
see,
consular
it was this
office.
yeah, because he was required to go to the embassy because he's a
Yes.
Saudi Arabian, right? And they
Yes.
yeah, so but this was an American was he a citizen? Did Khashoggi gain his,
I forget his status. I
but
think he was either a permanent resident or a
Washington
citizen.
Post
Yeah,
he was a
he's an
Washington Post
American journalist.
yeah,
Yes.
and he
Yes.
was critical of the Saudi Arabian kingdom, right? And he was dismembered. And Saudi Arabia has faced no consequences for it. We concluded, right? I think
Yeah.
our intelligence agencies
He
concluded.
was a legal permanent resident,
A legal
and
permanent resident.
American intelligence concluded that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was causally responsible for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, which was a horror. It was a complete horror. People can Google it. I'm not going to go into the grisly details, but
And now that family, that same family,
yeah,
the Saudi
royal
royal
family is
family
about to own CNN, and like you said, Max,
and
like,
CBS
yep,
and
yep.
kinda tangentially TikTok.
Oh, I don't know if they're gonna own CBS. I don't know how they've structured the transaction, but, like, still, if they just own CNN and HBO, this is an issue, and like you said, Max,
Yeah.
like, this is like someone lending you money. I've lent money to people in the past, and it is inevitable. And look, I've lent a couple $100 to people or a couple $1,000
Yeah.
to people in the past, and
Oh, you're a
like
you're a generous individual,
it's only
sir.
only
That's
happened
good.
once or twice. But
If you're low on cash, hit Alvaro up for money.
no, do not do this. No, I am not a wealthy guy. I drive a
All that
2013 Honda Padiddle. Um,
that was
I
a great game. Sorry to digress, folks, but
Padiddle,
Padiddle? Yeah, do you
Padiddle.
know that?
Yeah,
You know that game?
I do know that
It's
where you just hit
like
someone when you see a. I don't know about a
one
game. I think
headlight.
it's like an excuse to beat people.
Oh, no, it's like for and the way we played it in Iowa was you
Oh,
see a car with one headlight, right, and you gotta hit the top of the car that you're in and say
oh, the way
"Padiddle."
I played it was you could if you see a Padiddle, you can just punch someone next to you.
Wow, you
Um,
come from, I mean, upstate New York, I
Upstate
know,
New York's real
it's
rough.
just it's
Binghamton's
rough.
real
We
rough,
just
man.
wrestle each other, we don't punch each other, and I
That's right. So where were oh, yeah, so if you lend someone money, you care about how that person conducts their lives,
Yeah.
right? Like, I noticed, how my friends, what they were doing with their lives, when I lent them some money, right? Oh, like, you're not paying me back. And so the idea that these sovereign wealth funds are gonna kick in $24 billion into this, but, oh, they're not gonna be on
Look
the
at that.
board.
They're kicking in more than the company twice as much as the
Spell
company
that out.
of
Spell that
yeah,
out.
the royal families of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, I always get caught on the pronunciation of that country.
Yep.
Qatar and the UAE, Abu Dhabi specifically, those 3 royal families, those sovereign wealth funds,
Yes.
oil money
Yes.
is good. Their investment into this deal is twice as much as the
Yes.
entire value of Paramount Skydance.
Paramount, I just checked, worth $12 billion in market capitalization. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi are putting in a combined $24 billion, my friend. So this idea that like, ooh, they won't have a board seat, or ooh, they won't have
There's no foreign interference issue
right,
here
like
because they're not gonna vote.
it does not wash.
No.
This is a joke. It is a foreign takeover of these critical American news sources that, like, yeah, look, if you're a Fox, Newsmax, OAN watcher, like, okay, that's great. You watch what you want to watch. I don't see how you should feel better about the Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds that I've just named taking over CNN and HBO. So at this stage, Max, I feel like we
It
should
is
start
well,
talking.
can
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, so I wanna start talking about some of the antitrust issues here,
Okay,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
because it's like, so we've talked about the capital behind this deal, right?
yeah,
And, like, just kind of some broad principles that we should be
yeah.
concerned about. But let's just break it down. Let's put that aside for a
Okay,
moment and just break it down and look at what is, like, combining here.
yeah,
You're talking about 2 major studios,
yep. Number
right?
two and number five.
That create, stories.
Hmm.
And look, I believe that much more important than data,
Yeah,
than statistics, it's the stories that we tell ourselves
yeah,
that like matter and that really reveal truth of like what's important and what's not.
yeah.
So storytelling is one of the most powerful. It's funny, I love my wife. Alvaro knows this. Anybody who's watched us knows
It
like
it is a
and
great love affair. It is
I
amazing. Yeah.
she's amazing, and she introduced me to a gentleman by the name of Joseph Campbell. And I
Hmm.
don't know if are you familiar with Joseph
I don't.
Campbell?
I'll
Okay,
look 'em up.
he wrote, his big kind of contribution was called The Hero's Journey, where
Okay.
he basically tracked all these folk tales, like, through, like, all these different cultures, throughout history and throughout humanity, and it's like there are some, like, basic components of, like there's, like, a truth of being a human
Yeah,
that can be told through all these stories,
yeah,
and so he talks about, like, the power of storytelling as, like, a
yeah,
way for us to know ourselves, and so when you talk about the combination of some of these most important storytelling venues, right?
yeah,
Venue's not the right word or whatever. They produce our movies. They
yeah,
produce our TV shows. They produce the
yeah,
way that we tell stories to ourselves. Um, that's a competition issue, right? Like we and when you have this advent, one of the big issues in Hollywood, in script writing and all that is like the advent of AI,
Yeah.
right? And when you have that kind of power, if they control that much of the market, they're going to be able to fundamentally change the way that stories are told. They
Yeah.
might take out the human element
Yeah.
and implement, AI
Yeah.
as a way to tell our stories.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one component. So and then
Yeah.
think about all in those production of TV shows, of movies, etc. Think about all the people who are employed. I can't remember the exact number. I want to say it was around 6 billion that they promised 6 billion of synergies with WBD combining
Did they?
with yeah. And when just so you know,
That word,
when
by the way, anytime I hear the word synergy, I'm like, whatever you just said is not true. Whatever you just said is not true. But go ahead.
it's
That
corporate
word is like a. It's
it's
not a trigger
corporate
word.
speak for evil.
I don't know.
It's
Evil. It's evil. It's
uh,
just. It's just fake. But go
It's a
ahead.
yeah. So the synergy being it's like, "Oh, well, we can eliminate jobs.
There you go. There you go. It's
We can
corporate speak for like
eliminate
we
we
will
can"
fire, half the people over here and a third of the people over here, and like we're gonna pretend everyone's gonna get along when really they're gonna hate each other, and all the IT systems will not intersect, and we'll have to hire all these consultants to make this go through, and Deloitte will make a lot of money, and McKinsey make a lot of money, and at the end of the day,
we're
like
gonna take those
50% of the
salaries from
workforce will be out of
hardworking
work, our movies will
Americans.
suck, and like you're gonna be happy, I promise. It's like- yes,
Synergy.
synergy. Yeah, yeah. The aristocrats.
The
Yeah,
aristocrat.
yeah, yeah.
So, that labor, the grips, the assistant
Yes,
directors, the
yes,
all of these people
yes,
who are employed, there
yes.
is gonna be and remember, is it merger guideline 10? That is the
I
labor
don't know the number,
guide
but I know we spent an inordinate amount of time working on it. We should be a little circumspect about what we can say about it, but you should go ahead.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's like we have merger guidelines, that were issued, and one of the I tip my hat to this administration. The one thing that they have done that
Yes.
I was
Yes.
very pleased with
Yes.
was that they kept the merger guidelines that were
Yes.
developed under Jonathan Cantor and Lena Khan,
That's right.
the
And
FTC and the
us.
DOJ
Yes. And Doha
under the
Meki. That's right.
yeah,
Um, no,
wonderful
you
people worked on it, but that it's like the effect to the labor markets,
yeah.
is a competition issue.
Yes.
So but this and it's funny because I listened one of my favorite publications and podcasts is the Capital Forum, Teddy
Yeah.
Downey's,
Teddy Downey, yeah.
publication. And on Wednesday, he had on a gentleman who was actually a lobbyist for Netflix, so I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
That he was basically given like the Netflix case for acquiring, and he's saying it was like, fundamentally Netflix this is more of a vertical merger. Like we're getting into like the, kind of theatrical production game by
Yeah.
acquiring, WB, where he's like, but the Paramount merger, it's entirely horizontal.
Yeah.
Like it is
Well,
actually removing it's not entirely horizontal,
yeah.
but it's combining and so it's going to raise traditional section 7 of the Clayton Act uh antitrust issues. So there is a case to be made here against Paramount. And then not to mention it's the power on the other side too as they're selling this product. Like think about these movies, how much they'll control now of the movies that are going into the market. So the power that they have over theater companies,
Yeah.
right? Of the actual Fridley and AMC and all of those that in order to get they can get concession from those buyers of the films,
Yes.
right? Think about, you want to buy a digital copy of a film that's now produced by this. They're able to extract more money from you because they control so much of the market.
So let me zoom out for a second and talk about the antitrust. Let's talk about Rob Bonta as well.
Yeah,
But
we should
so what Max is talking about for folks, I suspect there's some huge antitrust nerds like me and Max, who are watching. But there's also some folks who don't know what antitrust is. So basically, there's a set of laws in place since 1890 and 1914 and 1936 and 1950 that say that you can't just gobble up your competition. Instead of competing with them, your head-to-head competitors and the people that you compete with in the marketplace, you can't just gobble up your competition. You can't buy them, and you also can't cheat them, right? You can't or cheat with them. And so one of the ways that a merger might be blocked is by federal or state officials saying, "Hey, look, these companies compete with each other. This is going to substantially reduce competition, which are the key substantial injury to competition, which are key words in the federal law from 1914, the Clayton Act, Section 7. And so one of the things that these antitrust enforcers are going to have to do is describe a market, right? And so Netflix was having all sorts of fun by saying like, "Oh, Netflix, like we actually compete with TikTok and we compete with with YouTube Shorts." And it's like, "All right, buddy, sure you do." What but what's happening here, it is true that this is a very straightforward merger of two competitors. So there are five big legacy movie studios. Number two is Warner Brothers. Number five is Paramount. And I think it is and my colleague Matt Stoller talks about this very clearly. This is a 5-to-4 merger because
Yeah,
they're outside of these big five. You really don't have movie studios that can do these like massive blockbusters, like Dune 2 or like Sinners or like Gladiator 2 or the SpongeBob movie, like Minecraft, like all these movies that actually or Mission Impossible. There's not that many movie studios that can put out these massive international blockbusters. And the other thing that differentiates these two is that they also have the pipes. They're also distributors.
yep.
So Paramount has Paramount Plus, and Warner Brothers has HBO Max. And so this is going to be a merger of head-to-head competitors and a clear one at that. One thing Paramount's going to do is say like, "Oh no, look at all of these movie studios." And if you look at like numbers.com or something like that, there's some, you're going to see this long list of movie studios. No, guys, this is a market with five participants in it. Not all of those participants, other than Disney, Paramount and HBO, have their own set of pipes in the system. In other words, have their own streamers. So this is going to be a concentration in the market. And as Max says, I learned this from working for Al Franken for 5 years in the Senate when he first joined the Senate. A lot of people picture Hollywood and they're like, "Oh, Hollywood, that's where like Ryan Reynolds lives. That's a bunch of fancy people." My friends, Ryan Reynolds, you know, Lindsay Lohan, although I think she's in like the Middle East now. I don't really understand. These things, Brad
That
Pitt.
sweet, sweet Middle Eastern money.
I will say that is the one. Well, no, actually, that's not true. I was gonna digress us in an unhelpful way. That is a very small layer at the top of Hollywood.
Yeah.
People, you need to understand, what is Hollywood? Hollywood is a bunch of regular people who are like the grip, who are the cameramen, who are the extras, who are the makeup artists, who are caterers, who are the teamsters, who are driving these trucks around doing last mile delivery. Like
That's
the
Hollywood.
that is Hollywood. Okay, and that is the industry of Hollywood, and that's why for a long time it was such a cool town where like
Tinseltown.
you actually had a middle class. You have a middle
Yeah.
class of people who are writers, and like again, most writers are not like the crazy fun writer who did Being John Malkovich. What's his name? Spike Jones or something like that. No, Spike Jones is a TV is a movie video. Uh,
I do
um,
love I just watched that film again recently. I
I mean,
love
it
being
holds
Jack.
up. It holds up.
It is such an
And
excellent
and
film.
then when he goes into the Malkovich room, it's like, "Malkovich, Malkovich, Malkovich,
Malkovich,
Malkovich,
Malkovich,
Malkovich, Malkovich."
Malkovich,
It's just
Malkovich.
it's just brilliant. Most writers are not that, okay? And so this is a
Charlie
town.
Kaufman.
What was that? Charlie
Charlie
Kaufman. Like,
Kaufman.
most writers are not Charlie Kaufman. Most actors are not Brad Pitt. Most directors are not Steven Spielberg, you know? And most people are none of these people. They're just the people making this stuff happen.
Yeah.
And so, you've got two movie studios. Is that famous Warner Brothers lot in Burbank gonna close? Like, and so they'll make flashy shows of, oh, we're gonna keep this, we're gonna keep that. But like at the end of the day, and this is what Rob Bonta, Attorney General of California, is saying, a whole lot of middle class people are gonna be out on the street, out of work, because you're merging two of the biggest movie studios in Hollywood. And yet, like, is George Clooney, going to care about that? And actually, he, to his great credit, along with Mark Ruffalo, has spoken out about some of this consolidation, but he's going to be just fine. The people who are going to get screwed over are those little guys. And that is why. And so this is the first thing, like starting to shift into the positive, because people on the left, we
Yeah.
love to cry in our soup, right? We love nothing more than to be like, "Oh, it's so terrible."
I
And
wanna talk about action, Alvaro.
let's talk about action. Because everybody, you're like, look, I'm not holding out hope that the Trump Department of Justice is going to block this. I don't know the new head of Trump antitrust, and so I'm not going to make any assumptions about him. But Donald Trump, the president, has made very clear that he will decide who gets this, and he
Which
clearly wants.
imagine if Joe Biden had said that
Oh yeah,
during the last
yeah,
administration,
right.
like, just like, I mean, oh, it's amazing because for and every antitrust
He just like
attorney,
walks out. He's like,
what
I
just
actually can't do a Biden impression, but yeah,
it's like, sorry.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
it's a good he's a good man.
Right. So here's the key thing. I don't know. Not going to hold out hope for the Department of Justice, Trump Department of Justice, but any state attorney general can move to block this. They
Yeah,
can move to block this, immediately if there's harm to the underlying properties or if the close is imminent. But as soon as the ink is on the page, someone like Rob Bonta could intervene. He's the Attorney General of California, and to
and it's
his, go ahead,
well, this used to be what I did was like state
get in there,
attorney
man.
general
Tell me.
antitrust enforcement, and I just want to remind people, like, states have a ton of power
Yeah,
when they join together.
yeah,
Like, obviously, states like New York and California, they have the most money for
yes.
their
Talk about
antitrust
that. How does that
enforcement.
happen?
There's a couple of states that really have like the most budget to be able to take on a big merger challenge. So
Yes,
one is New York State,
yes,
one is California. I'd include Texas in that, too. But there are a number of very active states in the antitrust community, and when they join together, they can actually do some pretty big things. So the most
yes.
recent one, and this is kind of ironic because, like, I just, under Trump one, there was a guy named Macon Delrahim who was in charge of the DOJ antitrust, and one of the things that he did was to get rid of the Paramount decrees, which had existed in American antitrust law since like the 1940s, which had to do with like vertical integration of movie
Yeah,
studios and
yeah.
theater distribution and all of that. So I won't get into the specifics of that,
I
but
could you
everybody
actually,
said,
because it's a big deal that he undid that.
yeah,
Um,
it's
it's
because
so
it allows for the vertical integration for more power over the distribution.
It's like you own
I
the content and you own the pipes. And
yeah,
so the idea used to be, both for cable through the what are called the FinCEN rules. Senator Franklin was a huge fan of these, and the Paramount decrees. If you made the content, you weren't allowed to also decide what runs in the pipes.
yeah,
And that encouraged really good pipes and really good content. And instead, what you get are like these things that Netflix does, where it's like produced in house by Netflix, and like you watch it, and if you actually don't watch it with your smartphone in your hand, it feels like your brain is actively rotting in real time because it's designed to be watched while you're like, "Oh, look, that's a funny Insta. Hey, honey, can you watch that?" Like, "Oh, what do they just say?" And so that is what happens when you own the content in the pipe. So, anyways, Mr. Del Rahim, and we'll
well,
we'll tell some
and
fun
it's just
facts about
funny
him in
because
a
at the
second.
time, like,
Yeah,
I love this, because we're a lot of us in the antitrust community back in Trump 1
yeah.
were saying it's like, "Wow, man, he's just really gunning for, like, a Hollywood job." Like, he just seems like he really wants and it was funny because most people don't realize this, Macon Delrahim, before he became DOJ antitrust, he actually produced a film. He
No,
produced
he
Yes,
did.
he did. Yes,
What
he
film
did.
did
You
he
know what
produce?
it was called Trash Fire.
Was it a?
Look
We're
up
gonna
his
Metacritic
IMDb,
that one
man.
right now.
Look up his IMDb.
Trash fire,
Yeah,
one word.
yeah, no, I think it was 2 words. It starred, what's his name from, Entourage, I think? But anyway.
Ooh, trash fire reviews. Hold on a second. 42 mixed or average. Um, and
This was Bacon Delray, and then he became the antitrust guy. He got rid of the Paramount decrees,
Los Angeles
doing a
Times
huge
Review,
favor to
flaming
Hollywood.
out from the get-go. Trash Fire represents another soggy batch of Southern Gothic horror comedy from writer-director Richard Bates Jr. that spews out pitch black smoke with little combustible substance. So,
Yeah,
so,
but
so,
anyway,
go ahead.
and
Yeah,
then when he left the
yeah.
antitrust division, do you know what he did?
Oh, I know what he did, but you should talk about what he did. And let me
He
find you the picture of the property.
Yes, he bought a home in Hollywood, California that
Yes,
used to be owned by Drake,
yes,
the rapper, and,
yes.
okay, so, anyway,
Uh,
I just he's and now if I'm not mistaken, right, he's advising on the
he's
Paramount,
advising Paramount, and the
and
thing
it's
that people, yeah, yeah. So like, if you're not an antitrust nerd like me and Max, like just to give you a sense of how much money this guy made. And look, he's very charming in person. He's a very effective lawyer for his
He's
clients, apparently,
you know, look,
because he.
I actually I get along with him,
Oh
like,
yeah,
when
no, me too, me
we've been
too.
across the table from each other
Like,
and, like,
but
I get
like
along with him.
when you make so much money that you buy Drake's mansion, maybe you're not working for the good guy. Like maybe you're maybe you're on the wrong side of this. But okay, so we're talking about like a state attorney general, Rob Bonta, could come into this. To his
Well,
tremendous credit, he
sorry,
has
now I
thrown a
remember
flag.
why I was bringing in Macon Del
Oh, go
Rahim,
ahead.
because people forget he was the head of the antitrust division
Yes.
when T-Mobile and Sprint merged.
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
He
yes, yes,
thought that
yes.
was a fine merger. He
Right.
thought it was gonna be great. He was gonna spin it off,
Yeah.
to Dish Network,
Yeah.
part of the network to Dish so that, this would not cause any problems in the
Yeah.
cell phone industry. The states said, "Oh, hell no." Oh, hell no,
Oh, yeah.
because, like, and I was on the executive committee of the states that were investigating, the Sprint T-Mobile merger, and so a coalition of states led by New York and California
Uh-huh.
challenged the merger, and I gotta tell you, you should go back and look at that record. They called exactly what was gonna happen
Yeah.
in the Sprint T-Mobile, merger
Yep.
context.
Yep.
I'm really disappointed in, the judge in New York who basically, I would sum up that decision as basically being, I really like the cut of T-Mobile's CEO, Jib. He just seems like a trustworthy guy, and so I think we can trust him to,
Yeah.
compete in the market. So anyway, it is there's a precedent
Yeah.
for states going against what the federal
Yeah.
government does, but it takes money,
Yeah.
right? It takes a lot of capital. So when it goes to what you can do, I have a couple of ideas, but
Yeah.
probably one
Okay,
of
go
the
ahead.
most effective
Yeah.
that you could do is to contact your state attorney general
Yes.
and let them know that this merger is anti-competitive
Yes.
and it needs to be blocked.
Yes.
Um,
And again, for people who are tuning in, like, yeah, maybe some of you are liberal, but for those of you who are conservative, again, do you
I hope we have conservatives
I think
listening.
we do. Do
Mhm.
you want Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi to be controlling CBS, CNN, HBO, well, sorry, yeah, CNN and HBO, right? Here's a couple other legal things, and I think it's important
Yeah,
to talk about legislation and also talk about how people can vote with their wallets and with clicks.
I
So,
agree.
but look, litigation, it doesn't just need to be a state attorney general who could sue. A labor union who is concerned that these Hollywood roles are actually pretty specialized. It takes some time to learn how to become a really good cameraman. It takes some time to learn some of these trades, right? That's why they're unionized. So a labor union could stage a challenge to this to try to block it. A private plaintiff could stage a challenge to try to block it. I do think there was a class action to try to block Netflix's takeover of Warner Brothers. To my knowledge, there hasn't been one here. But here's the other thing that I think everyone needs to understand. I have not understood why more senators and congressmen haven't drawn a line in the sand and said, look, if you are inking a bunch of corrupt mergers with the help of the Saudis, right? With the help of like your censorship charm offensive, the moment we are in charge in 2029, we're gonna undo them. Because at the end of the day, the cold hard, our financial system and the financialization of our system has all these horrible side effects, but one of those not horrible effects in this case, in this application, is that if suddenly it becomes clear that if another party comes in, there's a 50-50 chance that this deal will become undone. The board and the investors in the company need to
A
reckon with that.
and the financiers.
That's what I'm
Let's
saying.
not
The financiers need to
yes,
reckon with that. Need to reckon with the fact that this thing may be mired in litigation, and all these executives who are paid on the basis of stock options and the worth of their stock need to understand that suddenly that stock may not look so sweet, right? And so
so
not only let me give some credit here. Hold on, Senator Gallego, Ruben Gallego out of Arizona was the first to say this a couple of months ago. Like, look,
good for him.
guys, any rotten merger needs to be undone on day one of a new administration. Cory Booker is starting to inch his way there. I think Ro Khanna has called out these
Cory
proposed
Booker.
mergers. We need more people calling this out and saying, if this goes through, we will undo them. That is legislation. So number one
Has
thing you can
Holly
do. What's that,
commented?
buddy?
Has
What?
Holly commented on any
I
of
don't
these
think Holly
corrupt
did.
mergers?
Look, like
Like
I've had my
HPE,
differences.
Juniper, or anything like that? Has
Yeah, look,
Holly? Because Holly is one of the few Republicans that seems to actually care about competition in markets
yes,
and
yes,
seems to care about corporate power and consolidation.
yeah.
But it's like, this is what worries me about him, right? Like, is he out there talking about it when it's his party, like, to his party's benefit to,
Yeah.
have these mergers go through?
So look, me and Josh actually go back a
I
little bit. We went to law school together. He was perfectly pleasant in law school. He doesn't know this, but I actually moved his bookshelf into his apartment in Crystal City, Virginia, when I moved down to DC. I don't live in DC anymore. Haven't lived in DC for years. But in my U-Haul was Josh Hawley's fancy shelf that I moved into his Crystal City
How
condo or
fancy was
apartment.
it, Alvaro?
I was so fried from driving that U-Haul. It had no, CD compartment, and, like, I'm not as you can tell, like, I'm not the guy you picture driving your truck effectively, and so I was completely fucking terrified that I would crash my U-Haul. So anyways, and look, I think him, and back, during the insurrection in the Capitol, January 6th, I said
Yeah,
Josh Hawley should resign from office.
yeah,
Um, and and for that, he gave me all sorts of grief when I was nominated for the commission. But hold on a sec. I will say that when it comes to talking about AI and its impact on labor and the lodestars we should use in measuring it, when it comes to calling out credit card companies for being usurious
yeah.
against the people they supposedly serve. Josh Hawley has been outspoken in a positive way, and I've backed some of the stuff he said. I think if we had more voices
And a few other
and a few
Republicans
other,
have been out.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and so we so you've had Chuck Grassley on some of the PBM issues. He's been really
He's my
outspoken.
senator, man. He was since
Pharmacy
the
middleman
'80s,
issues.
he's been consistent too. I
He's
give
been
Chuck Grass
consistent.
he's been consistent against corporate power
That's
since,
right.
like, the '80s.
You
Yeah.
had Buddy Carter out of
Yeah, but
Georgia protecting the small pharmacists that are dotting rural and urban America. A lot of folks on the left just know him from some of the stuff he does about like Greenland being called red, white, and blue land. Actually, Buddy Carter is a really forceful advocate for the pharmacies that dot rural America and urban
yeah.
America, and he's been really really
And for
good
that,
at
he
it.
should be commended. He should be
Absolutely.
yeah.
Marcella Harshberger, over on the House side, a pharmacist herself, is a really powerful advocate against consolidation. So you have a lot of folks on the right that are great advocates. Unfortunately, and I'm going to check myself right after I say this, Hawley at the merger panel with like Ted Sarandos. I did not listen to the full thing, but I think he like asked him a question about like I'm going to check myself. I thought it was kind of like a anti woke question.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, it's unfortunate because I'm hopeful that in the
Yeah.
next
Holly
few
grills Netflix CEO on promoting transgender ideology. And it's like, buddy, there's much bigger issues here than whatever your version of woke is. So I'm hot and cold on Holly. I think he does some great stuff on labor. I think he's woke. He's his own version of woke, and for whatever reason, he decided to be woke here rather than actually talking about how media
the
consolidation
real
hurts people.
competition, the economic issue, because this is where it's like, I believe very strongly.
Yeah,
I come from a state that's very purple. It's been really
Iowa.
red over the
Yeah,
last, yeah,
I
Iowa.
mean, he's ruby
It's been
red now,
it's it's a weird it's a weird state,
but we had
right? It's a
Katie
very
Schulten.
it's
Yes.
it's a very weird state, but it's like, so I know so many rank and file Republicans,
Yeah.
and they care about the same
Yes.
economic issues.
Yes.
They're skeptical about corporate power in every
Yes.
form. They're skeptical about the way that labor has been mistreated. They're
Yep.
skeptical about the way that,
Yes.
as producers, because so many of them are farmers in this
Yeah.
state, right? And they're getting screwed
Yeah.
by corporate power on a daily basis. So
Yep.
I have hope that, if we can set like woke complaints
Yep.
aside, and by the
Yep.
way, like, let's be honest, why does woke even become an issue? Because it benefits the Epstein class, because it benefits the wealthiest portion of our
Yeah.
population that they can say, "Fight over
Yeah.
this. Fight over woke over here,"
Yeah.
so that you don't actually recognize that
Yeah.
concentrated capital, that
Yeah.
people with money, that billionaires, they are the real problem in
Right.
this country. And
And
so
yeah,
we
go ahead. Go
oh,
ahead.
because I do wanna
Yeah. Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
close to time here.
Yeah.
What can people do
Yes.
to deal with this? If we don't like the merger
Yeah.
here, what can we do? One thing is you can file Tunney Act comments. Like, so let's just say that there's a
Yeah.
settlement that DOJ enters into. There's going to be a process because the Tunney Act exists in order to prevent corruption in the antitrust enforcement realm. It's to make sure that the government doesn't enter into a sweetheart deal with like their preferred
Yeah.
corporations, right? In order to, skirt the antitrust laws.
Yeah.
So there's an open process where in the Tunney Act, you can actually file
Yeah.
your objections to the merger and
Yeah.
provide your reasons why you object to it.
Yeah.
Number 3, Alvaro started to talk about this, and it's so important.
Yeah.
This deal is not done yet. There are obligations like that banks have provided, that
Yeah.
capital has provided, that sovereign wealth funds have provided, but for the most part, they're concerned about making sure that they're gonna make money on this deal.
Yeah.
Because Paramount has such a small capitalization in comparison
$12
to
billion,
this,
$110 billion
we
dollar deal.
can drive Paramount stock
Yes.
into the ground.
Yeah.
And you know how we do that?
Yeah.
By canceling your Paramount Plus and then
Mm.
posting about it online.
Yeah.
Right? Like, make this a trend.
Yeah.
Make it a trend to cancel anything related to Paramount. Swear off any movies that are produced by Paramount
Yeah.
Studios. Make it the most toxic brand in America.
Yeah.
Investors are gonna start pulling out.
Yeah.
They're gonna start pulling out, that's gonna drive their stock down, that's
Yep.
gonna create, problems with the
That's right.
financing. You could break up this deal
Yep.
just simply by canceling your Paramount Plus account.
Yeah, and imagine if these 3 things were layered on top of each other, right?
Right.
Imagine if State Attorney General Rob Bonta is able to amass a coalition of attorneys general, like Phil Weiser of Colorado, like Letitia James in New York, like hopefully some red state state attorneys general. We're friends with Skermetti down in Tennessee.
Great
Hopefully
guy.
some can kick in. Who knows if they will or not? But imagine there's a litigation tranche, right? Maybe a labor union is able to join the challenge. Maybe some private plaintiffs are able to join the challenge. Number one. Number two, imagine if also you've got a clear line from the leading 2028 presidential candidates who, to a one, say this corrupt merger will be undone on day one I am in office, right? You've got promises to enact legislation to this effect. You've got backing from the key leaders in the left side of the aisle. Number two. Number three, imagine if a wave of people unsubscribes from Paramount Plus. It's going to hit their stock price. All of these things will bring down their stock price. And again, in this super financialized economy where literally, guys, these C-suite executives, most C-suite executives, and I can't speak directly to entertainment, but in most of these Fortune 100 companies, most of their money doesn't come from a salary. Most of the money comes from stock incentives and stock options. If suddenly the bottom is falling out on, the stocks that are paying for your, sweet place in Cabo or Aspen, that's paying for, that private school tuition for your son or daughter, those executives are going to think twice, and the financiers of this deal are going to think twice. And so Attorney General Rob Bonta of California is right. This is not a done deal. And people who are watching this on Wall Street need to understand that state attorneys general, not only do they have a legal incentive to block this because this is rotten, this will result in the unemployment of thousands upon thousands of people in this country. Also, there's going to be a political incentive. We haven't even talked about this. There's going to be a political incentive for someone like Rob Bonta, to take action to show that he's putting up a fight, right? And so everyone on Wall Street needs to understand this is not a done deal. You should value it as such.
We've actually had some commentary, come in through our YouTube channel,
Oh,
and I just like
nice.
to
What are
say
people saying?
thank
Let's
you
see.
to Roy Bowdoin1. He corrected that he said that, I think I'm assuming this was Del Rahim, that he works as the chief legal
Oh,
officer
really?
for Paramount. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's true, but because he also said that there needs to be a DOJ challenge before the Tunniac proceeding, and I'd just like to correct you, sir, that actually it's about the deal. Like, it's so the
I
cha
do think
like,
if DOJ clears it, that the Tunniac challenge is not possible.
even
And so
if they just clear it without any kind of a settlement? Like,
I
no.
am not a Tunniac expert, but and by everyone who's hearing us talk about something
Because
called the
that just
Tunniac.
seems like really because that would seem really corrupt, which goes against the actual purpose of the Tunniac. Like, because
So
there are clearly competition issues
So people
in
need to
this.
check my legal math. By the way, we're
Yeah.
talking about a law that was enacted in the wake of Nixon. Nixon was using his
It's
antitrust authority politically, and
we're just
right now
repeating Watergate.
there's an active Tunniac challenge to the HPE Juniper merger, this big IT merger,
Yep.
networking merger. That's before Judge Casey Pitts, and he needs to decide whether the deal is in the public interest. I do think, however, if the DOJ authorities clear this, that the Tunniac challenge
Okay.
is much
Call
harder. But still, but again, people, there's all these ways to block this deal. Here's the last thing I'll say, Max,
Yeah.
about this stuff is that this is a great reminder to support independent media.
Yes.
This is a great reminder, first of all, to support the journalists who are covering this. So the three that come to mind here are Richard Rushfeld at the Ankler, Hugo Lowell at the Guardian, my colleague Matt Stoller, who runs the big newsletter, who's a research director at AELP, have been putting out new information about these mergers. Support those journalists. Also support the people who are actually making media, independent media that are questioning these things. And so for me, the top two that come to mind are More Perfect Union. You should
Yeah,
subscribe to
great.
their YouTube channel right now. And Breaking Points, which is a populist news show that covers the news, offers daily commentary on the news from a left populist and right populist perspective. This was the independent media outlet that made me broke my completely unforgivable fast on paying for my media. I'm a premium subscriber to Breaking Points. And so this is a great opportunity and reminder for folks to support folks who make independent media and independent news.
I love Drop Site News, Ryan
Yes.
Grimm's publication, and, Julian Andreoni, who
The
is a
crushing it in
prob
the halls of Congress.
didn't I tell you, man? I saw
He's a
you post
beast.
about it because it's
He's
like
a beast.
he is doing great work.
Yes.
He is just bombarding, like,
Yeah.
senators and congress people, bombarding them with questions, and he knows his facts, and he's
Yeah.
actually pinning them down, and it's
Yeah.
creating some fantastic sound bites
Yeah.
of just how uninformed
Yeah.
these elected officials are, and
Yeah.
just how corrupt they are too.
Yeah.
You know, how they have to, like, revert to some pretty corrupt talking points
Yeah.
when challenged. So, I yeah, independent media, one other we didn't mention, David, Dayen, at
Oh,
the
of course. Yes. This
The American
American
Prospect.
Prospect, the
So
American
great. It's
Prospect,
a little bit
David
different
Dayen.
form,
Yeah,
kind of like
terrific. No, but that's an excellent point. He broke some news last night. I think he was the first to break the news about Attorney General Rob Bonta saying this is not a done deal.
yeah.
So again, folks, the journalists I would follow in this instance, Richard Rushfeld, the Ankler, Hugo Lowell at the Guardian, David Dayen, the American Prospect, Matt Stoller over at the Big Newsletter. I would follow
Capital
more
Forum.
Capital Forum, More Perfect Union, Breaking Points. But at this stage, Max, I feel like we covered most of the ground. Should we wrap? Remind folks about how to follow the
Yes.
show. What do you
Absolutely.
think? All right.
You could have been watching us on, our YouTube channel. We were lucky we got At the Fair Fight, on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do have a non-existent Facebook page that I'm trying to build up.
OG
We'll soon
Facebook or Facebook Blue for the antitrust heads.
the
Yeah.
Facebook, man.
The
Um
Facebook.com.
we've got, of course, on Twitter. It's at the Fair Fight Pod on Twitter. We are on Upscrolled for those of you who are, migrating away from Twitter. You can find us on Upscrolled at the Fair Fight. And then, of course, at Blue Sky as well. We have
Yes.
at the Fair Fight Pod.
And so, folks, you can. So please, 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 get our subscriber count. We need to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We are very far from that. I think we're at like 100.
Just a few
and
over
someone
100 right now.
and someone hilariously razzed me for that
I saw
online.
that. It's
I was like, "Oh, you're going on a show with 100 subscribers?
We
Cry
have 200
harder."
we have we have 200 subscribers on Twitter for
200 cool
the Fair Fight.
ones.
Now, between the two of us, you've got like 16,
No, but look,
17.
we do need your help, folks. We
We need
need
you.
you to subscribe on YouTube. That's where I would point everyone right now. Pretty soon, we're going to be on all the feeds. Sam Goldberger
Substack.
from my high school class, Vestal High School class of 1999, was like, "Dude, when are you going to be on the feeds?" We're going to be on the feeds very soon. And to put in two last plugs here. So, as I mentioned at the top of the show, a number of you joined late. You've got these live shows that are going to be occurring every Friday at 7:45 Iowa time, 8:45 Maryland time, Eastern. But then we're also cutting these shows where people can ask questions about different parts of the economy. We're cutting these as pilots. We're going to put out a season at some point soon. But the exciting news that you heard it here first, the inestimable, inimitable Cory Doctorow, the coiner of the term enshittification, out with an amazing book right now by the same title, the eponymous enshittification, the book. He will be our fourth or
Stop
fifth.
using your fancy words, Alvaro.
I'm working on it, man. It's mostly making sure I can still pronounce words. I'm getting old. So submit questions for Cory at thefairfightpod.com or ask thefairfightpod.com. And first priority will be to those who leave us a voice note at thefairfightpod.com. You can record it right there, or you can call. And this is
That's
the
on
single most.
SpeakPipe. SpeakPipe at the Fair Fight Pod.
Okay, but you can access it from the website.
Oh yeah, you can from fairfightpod.com. You're all right.
Okay,
you
go
got
to
it
the
all.
Fair Fight to ask Cory Doctorow a question about the messed up AI economy or enshittification.
But
go to thefairfightpod.com
But Alvaro,
or call.
I'm old
Hold on.
school.
Hold on.
I'm old school. I want to call you on the phone.
You want to call me on the phone? You can call me, Max, at 920-WE-FIGHT. 920-933-4448 and leave us a voicemail like you have a crush on us.
Rant. Hey, you want to tell us how
1999.
much we suck? Come on,
What'd you
call
say?
us. I want to get like
Oh
trolling
yes, we
calls.
welcome hate mail.
Yeah.
We welcome.
Come on,
Yes.
call me, tell me. I'm sure Matty Iglesias is out there.
You need to stop having
he's
fights with Matt
rage
Iglesias on. It's
rage
not worth
watching.
it, dude.
He's
not
not
worth
worth it. He is like, I love that he only has corporate accounts and corporate sponsorships. Real people do not follow Matt Iglesias.
No comment. And but anyways, folks, thank you for joining us today. We'll see you. I think probably next Friday.
Next Friday, let's
at,
do it.
7:45 Central, 8:45 Eastern.
Call us and tell us what to talk about.
Call
Send
us
an
and tell
email.
us what to ask Cory Doctorow, and that is 920-WE-FIGHT 920-933-4448. Thank you.
Thank you
everybody.
guys for watching.
Have a great day.
The special live. We'll see you soon.